Japanese Internment Camps by Kylie Bennett, Faith Tarasio, and Paige Clare. It was the midst of World War II and the United States was set on remaining neutral. Then, on December 7, 1941, Japan bombed a U.S. naval base in Hawaii named Pearl Harbor. These actions by Japan led to many Japanese Americans being put into internment camps by their own country. President Franklin Roosevelt passed Executive Order 9066 on February 19, 1942. Because of this order, any American that is 1/16 or more of Japanese descent was placed in one of the internment camps. These internment camps went against all Americans' rights because of the paranoia of Japanese people who had nothing to do with the attack on Pearl Harbor. After Roosevelt passed Executive Order 9066, it went into effect almost 4 months later. This order affected 110,000 Japanese, 2/3 of which were American citizens and children. Families were forced to leave their homes and pack only what they could carry in a matter of 6 days. These camps were surrounded by barbed wire fences, guard towers, and they went through extreme weather. The United States justified their actions by claiming the Japanese were threatening their national security. Can you point out your mother and father on that photo and tell me their full names?
Yes. This is my father, Minoru Fujita, and this is my mother, Alice Fujita. And they both met in the camps.
What happened to your family after the internment camps were closed?
After they were closed, they went back to get their stuff and had to live with other relatives that had things and start all over again because everything was gone.
Life for the families in the camps were not easy either. In their barracks, they had cots, a stove, and one light bulb. They had communal eating areas and bathrooms which took away all of their privacy. They made schools, post offices, places of worship, work, farmlands, and even some forms of entertainment. The Japanese stayed in these camps even after the war ended until 1946. These internment camps consisted of Tule Lake in California, Manzanar in California, Minidoka in Idaho, Amache in Colorado, Topaz in Utah, Heart Mountain in Wyoming, Gila River in Arizona, Poston in Arizona, Roar in Arkansas, Jerome in Arkansas, and many others. In Manzanar, the conditions of the camp were brutal, with hot mornings and freezing nights. In Tule Lake, the conditions were harsh as well.
My name's Terry Bennett, and this is my mother and father-in-law. I've known them since 1968.
What happened to your family after the internment camps were closed?
Well, the reason why Min got out of the camp was because he joined the army.
In 1943, the War Relocation Authority began testing the loyalty of the people in these camps with a questionnaire. Question 27 asked, "Are you willing to serve in the armed forces of the United States on combat duty wherever ordered?" And 28, "Will you swear allegiance to the U.S. and forswear any allegiance with the Japanese Emperor?" The Japanese that answered no to these questions were sent to Tule Lake. Many Japanese American men that answered yes joined the 442nd Regimental Combat Team that served in Europe. This team went on to be one of the most highly decorated in U.S. history. A lot of Japanese passed the loyalty test and helped out in the Army, and the women volunteered in groups like the Red Cross and Women's Army Corps. After the last camps were closed, many citizens had to try and rebuild their lives in America. Around 1,500 Japanese returned back to Japan while others continued to live in the U.S. Many years later, in 1988, Congress acknowledged the injustice of internment and decided to give each internee survivor $20,000 and an apology note. This country is based on freedom within the Constitution, and these internment camps went against these constitutional rights based off paranoias that were later proved to be invalid.
I remember as a child going to school, I used to get spit on, called names, and people telling me, well, we're better than you because I was of Japanese descent. So, yes, there was discrimination even after camp.
Do you guys have anything else?
I know Pop was a proud American soldier.
Mm-hmm.